Yeah. So very welcome to the School of Education here. So you can see this building. This is new. We just completed our moving, I think, yesterday. So we were located in another building. So this is brand new for me. I was exploring yesterday around. So you're welcome to look around and see whether you like the environment or not. As we mentioned, this is education studies. You can study education studies as a single honors, or you can, study education studies as a partner subject. So there are a few options here. Psychology, sociology, and geography. So whatever, pathway you are interested in. We did have a question previously, ask whether they can change, their subject once they finish, for example, first year. So you can do, but it really depends on your circumstances because we need to see whether you are okay or qualified to, change a subject and whether it is okay or is really right direction for you. Yeah. So these are just examples you will be invited to explore through our modules. So all sorts of questions you probably have thought about before, or you probably think, okay, this is a very simple question. But if you really think about them, it's very difficult to answer, right? There are so many, varieties and perspectives we can draw on. So I'm going to give you very brief, it's kind of overview of module choices you can make. Yeah, so just a few examples. For example, in year 1, you can have a module called Historical and Philosophical Ideas of Education. So within that module, we will look at what kind of educational ideas existed in the past. So how that is related to the current status of education. Yeah, the tension between them. So that's a focus of that module. Constructing childhood and youth. So within that module, we probably ask like very big question: what is childhood? What is adults? Yeah, and what do we mean to provide alternative perspectives for children? And what do we mean by being a responsible adult? Yeah, so those are questions we're going to explore. So there's another module called Science of Learning. Within that module, we are looking at theories and concepts in relation to learning as a lifelong process. Yeah, we also focus on like measures of learning process and outcomes. Okay, this is a module I'm going to teach on in year 1. So you can see from the title, International and Comparative Education. So we're going to explore some key concepts like globalization, intercultural communication, identities, and social justice in relation to education. Yeah, we will bring in all sorts of different studies based on different contexts. We will emphasize when we look at education issues, we really need to look at the local context. Yeah, where they're based, right? So this is year 3 module, higher education issues of exclusion and inclusion. So within that module, we are asking questions like, how do you mean by, whether it is always fair in terms of who goes to university? What about social economic factors, genders, ethnicities? So how those factors played around, at the at higher education setting. Identity, culture, and education. Within that module, we are trying to explore questions like how we're going to teach children culture or the wider cultural context. the tension between international identity and international identity and national identity. This is another module in Year 3, Education in Global Age. We had Will with us just in the morning session. He will teach that module. Within that module, we will bring some works like World Bank, OECD. So we are interested in how we are going to set up a school after disaster, for example, how education is related to development programs in the world. Yeah. Okay, you also have some options like a year abroad, or you can choose to do a UK placement. For example, one of our former students, she did a UK placement in the House of Parliament. So she was very interested in politics. And this example actually is coming from a student who has done her year abroad in Italy, and she was teaching English there. Yeah, you can see they really enjoy them. And although this is a very kind of optional, kind of choice, it's not compulsory, but many students chose to do that and really enjoy it. And they came back, then they can restart their studies here. Yeah.
So just to clarify about year abroads and UK placements, how it works is you'll apply for them in your second year. There'll usually be like some sort of contact within your department and within your faculty who you can speak to about getting involved, how to apply, all of those things. You'll apply with your first year grades for your placement because obviously your second ones are still going. So I don't know what you might have heard, but typically your results that you get in first year do not count towards your degree classification, which is the final thing you get at the very end. But they're still important because if you want to apply for year abroad, UK placements, or internships and things throughout your years, first year does still, like, that will be the grades that you use. Then with a year abroad and UK placement, you have free range of what you want to do with it. It's meant to be an opportunity for you. You still pay tuition fees while you're on that year, but it's usually like a small percentage of what it normally is. So I think when I was potentially contemplating, it was like 25% of what the normal tuition fee is. And then you'll have like a supervisor or a contact that you need to check in with every now and then. If you're doing a year abroad, you'll typically be at a university doing something or teaching for a while. If you're doing a UK placement, that's basically a year to have a job, or you can split it. You can do a few months in one place and a few months in another place. But part of that is you will still have things to do for Durham. So you might have like a reflective essay, you might have a portfolio to do, just so that Durham University can also see that you're not just, for instance, if you're doing a year abroad in France, you're not spending the entire time at the beach. There are sort of measures in place to make sure you're still getting the most out of that year. But your degree takes a pause at the end of second year. You then go on your year to do whatever. Then you come back and you go into third year. So you've effectively done 4 years, but you've still only done 3 academic years, and then that one sort of in the middle. And then you come back in your 4th year to do your 3rd year, which is when you do your dissertation and your final modules and all of that. If that, like, because I know, like, with year abroads and UK placements, people go, oh, how does that then link to my degree and everything? And you don't have to know if you want to do it now. A lot of students sometimes go into their degree dedicated knowing they want to do a year abroad. For education, absolutely not the case. And for any degree as well, not the case. It's just something that you can then sign up for the mailing list and apply for in second year. And if you're successful in your process, then your degree code will be changed so that it includes a year abroad or a placement.
Yeah, you can find them out more when you are here.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Just thought I'd add that in because normally we get a few questions about it.
That's great. This is a teaching and assessment. I think Tia will bring in her real example in terms of what sort of assessment you will have. And also like lecture seminars within 1 week, how many you will get. It really depends on what kind of modules you're going to choose. Yeah, as you can imagine that we have mainly lectures and seminars within one module. And sometimes for some modules, you will get like workshop. Yeah, so for lectures, you probably can imagine it's more like a lecture prepare their content. They try to guide you through that some key concepts and theories. You probably need to take notes, although you can always access the recording afterwards. And there are some like interactive activities designed within session. Yeah. But for the seminar, it's more like small group students, typically I think between 20 to 10. So for example, for my module for year 1, we have 2 lectures across 2 weeks, but we have same seminar you can choose across 2 weeks. Yeah, that's one option. So for some other modules, they may have more seminars or more lectures. So it depends on how they organize the content. So within the seminars, you are invited to explore all sorts of ideas together with your peers. So you usually do some group activities. You probably will be asked to prepare some reading beforehand and come in to bring in some questions or maybe do a debate, try to help you to clarify the ideas you have learned through the lecture. Yeah, so that's a very good opportunity for you to ask questions, perhaps some advice from the lectures and also through your peer support. Yeah.
If you're doing a split degree, one of the 3 split degrees, do you then have a range of modules that you can choose from?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you can say, I'm quite interested in those 4 out of 6 or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you're splitting the degree, basically it then sort of just changes how it's allocated. So obviously you have a certain number of modules that you are required to do. So in first year, if you're doing straight education studies, I think they're usually about 4 modules that are compulsory. In second year, if you're doing just education, or even if you're doing with a partner, educational research methods is compulsory. Everyone has to do it because it's designed to then guide you for your dissertation. If you're splitting it, obviously that means that then you're only doing 3 modules in each department as opposed to 6. So yes, you're getting that range in terms of I've got this and this, but then you have slightly less opportunity to choose in that regard. So for instance, in my second year, I just had the 1 compulsory module, so the other 5 I had complete full reign. But for instance, one of my friends who does education and psychology, she had the educational research methods in education and then 2 choices in education. And she had 2 compulsory requirements in psychology because she's following a specific route where she wants to get a specific accreditation. So that means she only had 1 choice for that remaining module. So I don't know if that sort of helps, because you're getting the 2, it does narrow your choice, but it's also broadened it in that you're covering 2 different departments. And you still have choice, but you just might have less choice in terms of how many modules you can do. So instead of being able to choose 3, you might be able to pick 1.
Yeah. In terms of assessment, Tia just mentioned in year 2, you are going to do like research method module, so which will help you to do your dissertation towards the end. So in the final year, you are expected to do independent work by yourself, although you will be allocated as a supervisor. She or he will guide you through the journey, so you can ask any questions you want. Many students take that opportunity, to go through their plans, outlines, ideas. They talk about their methodology, findings with their supervisor before they can really submit their work. So for the dissertation, you are able to choose your topic and also decide what sorts of data collection you are going to use. For example, some students will go to interview people, right? Some people do questionnaires. Some people go to the classrooms to observe, teaching activities. So it really depends on your topic and what sorts of questions you are going to ask. And then you will be able to present your findings and discussions and submit your dissertation. That's a big work, but many students enjoy it.
So much fun.
Yes. Because you can, generate very original ideas and you find out really, something other people haven't really found out before. Yeah. So in terms of assessment, we have summatives and formatives. For many modules, you will do like essays. But I think for many like psychology modules, you are expected to do some exams. Yeah. For formatives, we have wide range of formatives. Like you can do presentation together with your peers, and you perhaps are asked to create a poster. And Tia is going to share with you her experience with all sorts of formatives or other, assessments she has done. Yeah. Yeah, we have come across this in our drop-in sessions. So Tia has mentioned half our students are going to teach, and half our students have a variety of choices here. They can go to work for, career education. They can teach in like other settings rather than school settings, right? Those people actually are quite related to educational psychology. And many students decided to study their postgraduate studies in other universities, or they want to stay at Durham. Tia has already got option from UCL, right, to do her master degree. So then they will stay like to do the PhD, and they come back to do the PhD, or they go to abroad. Then they become like lecturers, professors in the university. That's very popular option there. You can see here, Durham University is ranked 6th in the UK in the Times and Sunday Times Good University Guide 2022. So it means our graduates are doing very well, and they usually get very good job after their graduation. So that's why I think Durham University is highly recognized, by those ranking system. So. Partly because that, I think one of the reasons because we have a world leading kind of scholars in our department. So many of our academic staff here, they are doing their research, which is highly recognized internationally. I previously shared my experience. Many years ago, I was doing my PhD. I came to Durham because there is a group called CultNet. So this is a group, we gather together all the top scholars in the field of language and intercultural communication. So when for example, I came here, see some professors, scholars here in person, who I actually cite in my writing previously. So this is really opportunity. You can meet some scholars here in their specific fields. That's why we have very dynamic and world-leading research environment here. So this is a very research-intensive department. Tia, do you want to add something about that?
Yeah, so it's one of the amazing things about Durham University is Durham is part of the Russell Group, which is a research collective. And we were actually ranked, I think about a few months ago, / last year, as being tied first with Oxford University for not only our research, but the quality of our education linked to research at the university. So it's an incredible opportunity for students because not only are you being taught by people who have a thorough understanding of their topics, but you're being taught by people who are actively engaged in researching those topics. So you are being taught by the best and most current minds in those various subjects, which is really incredible. And I'll mention this in my own little presentation, but because you're engaging with academics who are actively doing research, students can then often get an opportunity to be part of that research, which is not only a really amazing experience, but it's also something that you can add to your CV, being able to say that while you were at university, you were part of a research project being led by a senior academic in their field. So it's a pretty incredible space to be in as well.
Yeah, so many of our graduates actually went to a very competitive postgraduate programs in other universities, because one of the reasons we provided references for them from our perspectives. Other colleagues recognize our work because some of our colleagues are leading scholars in that field, so they are very welcome their students to come to study their programs. Yeah, so this is one of the reasons why students give like 100% satisfaction when they graduate. This is an opportunity you can do like in final year before you leave the university. So you do provide your perspectives anonymously, so you can say whatever you want. But obviously, our students are very happy with the experience. There are some reasons here. I think Tia will share more about her experience, and you will get more real sense in terms of a student's life here. Okay.
So, one of the things on there, you said small student numbers. What's typically the size of this course? This degree?
It very much depends, because I think when we had with all the A-levels results and the algorithm and all that obviously impacted things, but typically the cohort is quite small. It's between about 100 and 150 students, to my knowledge.
How big is a specific module being taught?
So the educational research methods one that's compulsory in year 2, that's between education and primary ed, because it's all part of the education department, and I think we had close to 200 students on that module. For other modules, again, it very much depends. In first year with compulsory modules, they'll typically quite big, between 80 and 100 if that's the size of the cohort. But as you go into second and third year, because they're more optional modules, it does get smaller. So for instance, one of the optional modules I take is quite popular. We have about 40 students in it. Another one, which is not less popular, but a bit more niche, that one has about 25 students in it. So that's the full size of the cohort in that module.
Yep. I'm just going to give you very brief ideas about the university, but I guess you already, explored a lot by yourself. Those are figures. So Durham University, as you know, we have a lot of facilities here, and you can get support from the college, right? So once we have issues from students, we usually arrange meeting. The meeting will have a student and some support staff from the college and some academic staff from the department. So within the department, you will be allocated a personal academic advisor. So you, apart from the lectures, tutors, you will meet in your module, you also have a personal academic advisor. So if you have any questions, concerns, you can always reach them. You can ask them questions. Yeah, there are a wide range of facilities here around university. I'm sure you can explore your interests further and get support and all around the university. Yeah, I think that's pretty much from my part. So Tia is going to give you her story, and you are welcome to ask questions afterward. Yeah. You're welcome.
Just ignore all the random things in there. I've spent a lot of time on Canva with all the things I've had to do in the last few weeks. Right. So this presentation, again, I generated this for the Post Office Visitor, which is why it says that. I didn't change it. Oops. But this is sort of a presentation to give you the student side of things if you are doing education. So a little bit about me, just to start things off, is for anyone who hasn't already picked it up. My name is Tia. I am a third year, so I'm in my final year student. I do education studies single honours. So I'm about to graduate in 2 weeks on Friday, which is slightly terrifying. And I've been here for 3 years. I've been working as the representative for education for the last 2.5 years. And as part of like the fun things I do beyond just my degree, I'm part of John Snow College, one of the Hill colleges for anyone who's already done their college research. And I founded and run the Disney Society up until last night, actually, where we had our official handover. And I'm also part of the Creative Writing Society. So not a sporty person, despite what the leg might suggest. I'm a bit more of a nerd, so I do all of the hobbies and interests society side of things. But again, I've been a student here for 3 years. I've been a student ambassador for like 2 years and 3/4. So I'm very familiar with the university. So any and all questions outside of education as well, I will do my best to answer. And if I don't know the answer, I have many amazing ambassadors that I can go and harass for an answer and then get back to you. So this presentation is it covers similar things, but more from a student perspective. So I'm going to sort of whiz through, but please feel free to stop me and ask any questions as I go if you want some more clarification on anything, or you want just if something sparks a question, because this is all for you. This is why I'm here, is to sort of show you just how fun and amazing education studies is. Because as much as, yes, this is my job, I genuinely love my degree. I brag about it all the time, especially to my friends doing other degrees when they complain, it's like, oh, I'm not really loving my degree. And I go, well, I'm having a great time with my degree, ha 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 ha. So I really do love my degree, so I'm happy to talk about it all day, which is great because this is what I have to do all day today and tomorrow. So education studies, to get this out the way, if you do education studies, everyone will ask you when they say, oh, what do you do? And you say, I do education studies. The immediate next question will pretty much be, oh, so you want to be a teacher? And usually the answer is no. I'm just interested in education. So this is not a teaching qualification. That does not mean that you cannot go into teaching, because as we saw in the last presentation, about 50% of the cohort do go into teaching. They just want a firm understanding of education as a whole first. But teaching is not out of the question, but this degree specifically is not a teaching degree. It is a general social sciences degree. So when you finish, you will get a BA in brackets honours if you achieve well in the social sciences faculty. And what the degree does is we answer all the big questions and elements of education. So how I like to explain it to people who maybe have no idea what education studies is imagine education as a whole is a brick wall, and everything that makes up what education is a different brick in that wall. So for instance, assessment might be 1 or 2 bricks. Policy might be a brick. Being just a child in school is another brick. And what this degree does is we take out each brick individually, examine it in detail, and sort of see how that then impacts the tower. So for instance, what are the foundational bricks? What are the less relevant ones? How do they all interact? If, for instance, we completely changed assessment, how would that impact everything? Would it be like a Jenga tower and everything fall over? So it's really unpacking education holistically as a whole from multiple different perspectives. Sounds fun, right? It's great fun. You get to ask a lot of very, precarious questions sometimes, which is, all the fun in it. So yeah, as we've said, you can do education single honours, which is what I do. So basically, mostly based in the School of Education, but I have an interest in social learning theories and the sociological, sociocultural lens of things, but you've got different strands as well. Or you could be with our partner departments in sociology, psychology, or geography, which, as I said, is then a split down the middle. You do half your modules in education and half of them in the other department. Typically, you'll have a mix of lectures, seminars, and workshops or tutorials for each module. I will show you what the breakdown is of the timetable, but typically you'll have 6 modules that you need to do a year, which are 20 credits each. Each of those will typically have a 1-hour lecture per week and then a 1-hour seminar every week or every fortnight, depending on the module. And you might also have additional workshops and tutorials as part of that. So if you're doing your maths, that's only about 9 to 12 contact hours a week sometimes, which doesn't sound like a lot. But what that means is you then have a balance with independent work and study time. So in the social sciences and humanities, there tends to be more of an emphasis in independent work. If you're doing a STEM subject, sometimes they have lectures from 9 until 6, multiple days a week. In my mind, that sounds a little bit frightening. No, thank you. Also, I can't do maths, so that wouldn't help. But that means that they're not doing any more work. They're just spending more of their time in their lectures having contact hours. You will spend the same amount of time doing your degree, in theory, but more of your time will be spent doing preparation work for lectures, doing reading and research on different topics to inform your understanding, answering prep questions for different things, and then working on your assignments. So, researching, doing hours and hours of reading on a topic you're really interested in for an assignment, that counts towards the hours you should be spending on your degree. So you do just then get more of a balance and more emphasis on independent study and work time with contact hours, which is quite nice because then you have more time doing your own work, you have a bit more flexibility in how you arrange your time, and especially in third year, you will have a lot more time for independent work because you'll be working on your dissertation, which is about a third of your third year workload. So that's that. Right, so these are some module examples that I've taken, or some just general module examples from across each year. So as I was saying, in first year, you typically have more compulsory modules because you're building that foundation that you can then take on into different years, but we do have different strands. So we have the sociological, sociocultural strand, we have the historical strand, we have the pragmatic strand, which is sort of wider context of learning. We have the international strand, which is international and comparative education, things like policy. We have the psychology strand, and then we sort of have the other strand, which is things like disability and educational needs, as well as the learning sciences, which is slightly different. So this is the type of modules you can expect. The modules are subject to change on a year-by-year basis. So please, 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 please do not see this list and go, right, I'm sold on Durham because assessing education is the module I want to do, because Sod's Law says that when you come to Durham University, that module might have changed, it might no longer exist, there might be a different module in its place. So modules do change on a year-by-year basis because, as we said, our academics are active researchers. I've had lecturers go on research leave, so the module's no longer running, or someone else runs it and then changes sort of how it's run. But also new modules are constantly being developed. 2 modules that I'm taking this year didn't exist before this year. So, it's all open to change. But this is just a sort of range of examples that you can get. And you do have a choice in which ones. But as I was explaining, it sort of very much depends if you do education single honours or education with a partner, as in how many spaces you have to fill with your own choice. Right. So, this I added because a lot of students go, oh, okay, well, how was that? How will your week then? So this is an example of what my timetable looked like in second year. The lectures were happening every week. Seminars were only happening every fortnight. So you can cross out 3 of the seminars at will, whichever ones you want. I can't actually remember which ones were each week. But that was sort of how my week was laid out. So I typically spent my Monday doing mostly lectures, and I would then do lecture work around it. So I'd do compilation notes at the end of lectures. I'd make sure that I had all my notes prepared for ones that were upcoming. Then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday was typically a lot of working around seminars, doing reading for seminars and preparation, preparing for lectures and all of that. I popped in sort of things that I had in my diary that were official. So as I said, because I'm part of 2 societies, Tuesday and Thursday night were those society evenings when they had sessions running. So that was every Tuesday, I'd go for creative writing after my seminar. Same thing for Thursday, I'd go to Disney after the lecture. But the other evenings are sort of also free if you do your own society stuff, or if you just want to socialize with friends as well, or if you want to stay in and do work, or just stay in and watch a movie. That's a thing students are allowed to do too. Don't have to spend the whole time doing work. And I'm allowed to say that because balance is key. If you spend your entire time doing your degree and you have no time for socializing, you will be very miserable and you'll have no fun, which is very sad because it is fun. Then typically, because I had no academic contact hours on a Friday, I would use Friday to do assessment work. So I like to plan my assessments quite far in advance. I like to work on them far in advance because I have anxiety. I don't like leaving things for the last minute. Some people are very talented. They've written entire dissertations in 3 days. Nope, cannot do it. It stresses me out. Some people write their essays the night before and submit it 3 minutes before the portal closes. That's not me. I like to do things very far in advance. So Fridays I would dedicate to whatever assessment I had coming next. You will typically be given when all your assessments will be at the start of the year. It'll be part of your module handbook where they'll say, right, these are the assessments you have for this year. This one is due in, if it doesn't have a specific date, it'll say end of April, so at least you have a ballpark, so that you can work towards it, which is quite nice. And then the weekends I'd normally save for doing work, aka this, or I'd do some volunteer work, I'd see friends, or on Sunday what I'd do is spend a good chunk of it preparing for this beautiful Monday that was full of lectures. So that's an example of what a week looks like. Again, very much depends on what modules you take and what your own timetable looks like. But the nice thing about doing a degree like this is, as you can see, contact hours don't take up the vast amount of your week. The rest you can fill up with sort of space to work, socialize, and build in the rest of your life around it, which I think is quite nice. Right, so these are some assessment examples. The School of Education is brilliant in that it uses many different types of assessments, and you also have quite a wide range of topics that you can do, which I think makes it far more interesting. Instead of just, you have a module and you end up just writing your arbitrary exam at the end of it, you could do any of all of these or more over your year. And again, you have quite a wide range of freedom with the topic you choose, because your lecturers, particularly in second and third year, give you the academic freedom to explore your own interests so long as they link up with the overall module theme and goals and the topics that you've covered. So essays are quite common in the School of Education. As was explained, there's formative and summative work. Summative work is typically essays in a lot of modules because it's a great way to show that you understand something in depth. What are your research skills? How can you develop critical thinking and a good argument? But there are a range of other ones that are used as well. So these are some of the different ones that I've done. I had to do a reflective portfolio in my second year based on field work that I did in a local school where I was observing extracurricular music activities, and then I wrote a reflective portfolio on it. Digital storytelling is another fun one. That was something I did in my first year, where we had to create some sort of digital piece related to a revolutionary moment we had in education, and then we had to link it up with the academic topics that we'd done. Then another module I've done, we had to develop a curriculum plan based on digital ideas and how to enforce digital technologies and digital theories into the curriculum. And then we also had to write blog posts every fortnight and engage on a digital platform. So as you can see, there's quite a wide range. And just to sort of show you how different things can be depending on the module, you saw one of the modules was constructing childhood and youth in the earlier presentation. I took that module in my second year. That was the module that inspired my dissertation. And basically what we had for that, we had a formative piece of work, but instead of writing a plan, which is quite common, our lecturer had us write a full academic essay that she just gave us really intensive feedback on, because then we used that essay to turn into a digital presentation, which was our summative work. So we used the content for that and made a digital presentation, but then for our second summative, we could choose any topic we want. We developed our own question. It just had to be linked to one of the themes that we've covered over the year. And then we used the feedback from that first essay to see how we could then write our second essay. So I actually did my formative essay and presentation on the gender role stereotypes and the gender roles inflicted in Lego sets, which is quite fun, because one of the things we looked at is gender and toys and how that is influential to young children. And then for my second essay, I ended up looking at the gender roles in the Incredibles films and how that changed over 17 years. And that then inspired my dissertation, which I wrote on the educational influences of Disney villains across time and how those portrayals can be influential to children about societal messages. So as you can see, you can literally do just about anything you want. In terms of your dissertation, And with all of these, really, the department is incredible with making sure that it's well scaffolded and that you have any and all access to support that you need, so long as you ask for it. So particularly with the dissertation as well, because I know it can be a bit scary thinking you have to develop a 12,000 word piece of academic work. But how the department does it is, as I said, you do educational research methods in your second year, which gives you all the tools that you need to do research. So it covers the different types of research you can do, how you can approach it, the different methodologies and all of that. Then at the end of your second year, they put forth a bit of a questionnaire and you sort of say what topics you're thinking about, if you have any preferences for your supervisor and all of that. Then based on that, you'll be given a supervisor. You can then meet with your supervisor for, I think you have a certain number of hours that you can contact your supervisor. That is relegated across the university just to make sure that everything is fair and no one's getting loads of time as opposed to no time. But then you can meet with your supervisor as and when you need. You'll then submit like a proposal in the first few weeks of your third year, because then you need to start getting ethics approval if required. You need to start getting some work done. And then you basically work on your dissertation from some point in the summer where you might start doing some research all the way up until the end of April, which is when most dissertations are due. In education, they are due towards the end of April as well. And they are workshops held by the department at different stages, so sort of how to get started with your research. There are lots of resources available to you. So the process as well is quite well managed. I, had many sessions where I just came to my dissertation supervisor and I said, oh my word, this is going to be a disaster. I don't know what I'm doing. This is really confusing. And she'd just sit and be like, let's all calm down. It's fine. You know what you're doing. And then she would break it down, go through it with me. So, it all works out. The department is fantastic. Right. Okay, so that sort of leads very nicely into the support and the academic staff that you have at Durham University. So first off, you have your lecturers or professors. They are an excellent point of contact, and I have found throughout my experience that they are very easy to get in contact with and very easy to ask for help. You can basically just send out an email if you have a random question, or you can reach out for help and chat to them at the end of the lecture, which is quite nice. If you don't want to catch them at the end of a lecture, you can speak to them in a seminar. Seminars are much smaller groups of the same people doing a lecture on a module. It's usually between 10 and 20 people, sometimes less. And a seminar is an opportunity to discuss in more depth the topics of the week or the topics of those lectures in question. And if you have any issues, if you don't understand, if you need some clarification, you can talk through that in your seminar. So it's another great chance to get some support, as well as chat with academics and ask questions on topics and assessments, as well as with your peers. Academics also have office hours. Sometimes you might have to book onto these, or you could just turn up in the allocated hours. And this is a great opportunity to get extra help or feedback. For instance, if you've gotten an assignment back and you're not 100% sure about the feedback and getting the answers in an email is maybe not quite what you want, you can go to the office hours and ask the lecturer to go through the feedback so that you have better clarification on it. Then, as we said, every student has an academic advisor that is within your department. So if you have any queries, questions, complaints, concerns about being a student in the education department, you go to your academic advisor. So even if, for instance, you're just having a stressed out week and you don't know how to deal with that, if you're struggling with work-life balance, or you've got an assignment and you don't really know how to approach it, and you, for whatever reason, maybe you don't feel like contacting the lecturer or you can't contact the lecturer, I don't know why that would happen, but that's, hypothetically, you can go to your academic advisor and they'll then try and help you work through that. They'll give you some suggestions, and if they can't help you, they'll then make sure that someone else can. Then finally, Durham, generally, and particularly the School of Education, is a very community-oriented space. So within Durham, there are lots of sub-communities. You've got your college communities, your department communities, your society and sport communities, and the education department is no different. So the peer community is very active. We have chats and student and study groups, and everyone is very helpful towards each other. So for instance, I have a small group of friends that we sort of banded together in first year. And now what we do is if we have any questions, we share like notes, for instance, if we're confused about a topic. Particularly what we do is then towards summative season, when we're all getting ready to hand in quite a few essays, we'll all get together, we'll share our essays between us, and then we'll sort of do like a little peer marking side of thing where we'll go through it, we'll give each other feedback, point out any issues, because it's nice to get an extra set of eyes. And I don't know about you, if you've ever had the experience of you're working on an essay for how many days straight, and then you don't even know what you're saying anymore. So it's quite helpful to have someone with a fresh set go, you're not actually making any sense here, or oh, actually, you've done a really good job. So that's quite nice, and it's a really useful tool to use. And what I always say about support at Durham, there is support in spades at Durham, and it's very easy to access. The only thing is you just need to have the confidence to ask for it. So I know that sometimes it can be quite intimidating or quite stressful to ask for help. You know, you don't want to go to a lecturer if you think you have a silly question, but you know, that's sort of, as harsh it is, that's something that you have to get over if you want the help. I was very shy. I did not like the idea of asking for help, but then I did not so well. And well, looking back at it now, it wasn't so bad. But the first assignment I got back, I did not do particularly well in. I was very disappointed. And so I thought, you know what, actually, let me go and speak to my lecturer. And that sort of showed me that, you know what, they're actually really, really lovely people and they're there to help. You just have to have the courage to ask for it. And that goes for all the support available in your college, the wider university, department, etc. Right, then we have a range of wider learning opportunities. So as I said, one of the modules I did, I could do fieldwork, but again, this very much depends on the module. So I did fieldwork at a school where I was observing lessons, and then I had to filter that into an assignment. As I said again, there are also research work opportunities. With so many academics doing active research, sometimes they might need extra help on a research project they're working on, or for instance, they might have a pilot that they're running and they need students to help with this, perhaps maybe implementing or running small sessions in schools. So those will be advertised to you through the student communications, and then you can sign up for that, which, as I said, great thing to add to your CV, because at the end of the day, as much as we all want to be having fun, I know each and every one of you deep down is thinking about, oh, could I add that to the CV? It's fine, everyone does it. It's an important thing to be thinking about. But it also is a really fun opportunity to get experience working on research projects. Then, as one of the examples is digital storytelling, but there's also a lot of opportunity for personal exploration. As I said, there's a lot of freedom in terms of choosing topics you're interested and passionate about, but there's also a lot of space for reflecting on your own journey and your own learning experiences, even within assessments. That's then factored in. So it's a great way to also develop yourself as a person and how you then factor into education. Then also you can visit interesting locations. One of the modules I took this year included lectures at the Oriental Museum and the Botanic Garden in Durham, which was quite lovely because they linked up with topics we'd done, and hey, it gets you out of a lecture hall, which is super fun. And then, as we said, there are also placement years and year in industry opportunities. So that should be the end. For anyone who's sort of been in and out, this is UniBuddy. UniBuddy is an official chat platform for prospective students to speak to university current students. So ambassadors like myself at Durham and other universities have profiles on UniBuddy where you can sort of see who we are and what we study. And then if you have questions that come up, you are welcome to then message us, and then we will do our best to get back to you and answer your questions as best we can. This QR code is for my UniBuddy profile. I'm not going to be offended if none of you message me, that's absolutely fine. But it's more just because we know that, you know, sometimes open days are very overwhelming and questions might only come up on the way home, or, you know, at a later stage, or, you know, open days can also be a bit intimidating. I know that, like, I'm a bit subdued today because I'm ill, but you should see me when I'm in full force. I'm an incredibly, overwhelmingly positive person, and I know that sometimes that can be a bit stressful and intimidating for people, or maybe you're like, oh, I'm feeling a bit shy, I don't actually want to ask the question in case you think it's silly. Believe me, been doing this for a long time, there's no such thing as a silly question, and if you think your question's silly, believe me, I've heard a sillier one. But we know that, you know, if you don't want to ask the question in person, that's absolutely fine. So this is what the chat platform is there for, because not only can you then ask questions when you're not at the university, but you're getting questions answered from students who are current and existing and really living that student experience. So you're not going to get a better perspective on that course, that college, or that university experience than from students who are actually living it. So feel free to take a photo of that if you want. You do not have to. As I said, UniBuddy, you can just create a login and speak to other university ambassadors. But yeah, that is specifically for my profile if you have any questions about education.